But welcome. Thank you for joining. Appreciate you taking time out of your evening to be here. This is a content and webinar we've been doing for years, and we typically do it at the end of the year, so sometimes at the beginning. Always good basics, foundational pieces within the Inevitable You system to know. As I said, this is about designing a new operating system for 2022. So, this goes way beyond just normal goal setting and planning. Most people know how to do that already for their jobs or their business. This is about designing a completely different way of, thinking, how you tap into your emotional matrix, how you feel differently, how do you motivate yourself towards your goals, and how do you be a totally different person than you were, this past year, than you maybe a totally different person than you've been the last several years. And this goes right to the core of what we do here at the Inevitable You. This is about your mental software or your operating system, as I said. Goes to the very structure of how you think and what drives you. So what I want to start off with, what's important to know is when we talk about designing and installing software, and what does that mean? Because we're at the cusp of a new year, and as I said in the email, it's not just a change in the date on the calendar. This is an opportunity for upgrades. Every year, a new version of software to design and install, just like Windows or Apple is constantly upgrading their softwares. Well, we want to do the same with your psychology. And so for longtime clients, the tendency is to look at the past year and the difference between that and old you. So whatever, year you were 5 years old, that first base set of software, the tendency is to look at the difference and say, wow, this is awesome. I have, a lot of uplift. Things are going well. I'm experiencing some, momentum. This is good. But really, when you think about it, you don't want just, and we're not here just for incremental, upgrades and shifts. We're looking for massive and radical, exponential quantum leaps in your success and how you think and who you are. And so it should be, compounded interest year over year, point of view to the old you, wherever you started. And so you may have had a really great, improvement from old you. And then so the tendency was, with this year, I can just do a little bit more than the last year. That's good. But really, we want to take, if we call this your ceiling, and again, another quantum leap, that same amount of growth that you had the previous year, or if you're just starting this, we want to replicate that. We want the same or even greater amount of growth and uplift for this upcoming year. So, when you look at the last year, 2021, and, it was still a challenging year for a lot of us, but what was it? Was it above average from the last year, incrementally better? Was it legendary? Was it epic? What would that even mean? What would that look like? And what would that look like for 2022? So you know how to excel in some areas of life, be it your health, be it your relationship, but will you apply that same psychology here? And here being, whatever your focus is for 2022, and here in just your program, if it's you're in coaching, you're in a mastermind group, you're on your own on the website. Will you apply that and excel here? Because if you really understand this, if you get that there's this quantum leap, it's dangerous, it's risky. You're leaving your comfort zone, you're moving into a magic zone, a place that's very uncomfortable, requiring actions that you likely haven't taken before, thoughts that you haven't run on a habitual basis, new feelings, new excitement, even new failures. One of the misconceptions or, beliefs is that, well, if I'm having more success or if I'm making these quantum leaps, failure should go down, right? It's very counterintuitive because by law, new actions are going to lead to failures. And if you look at failure differently, if you think about it differently, if you integrate it differently than, what old you perceived it as, it becomes empowering, it becomes lessons, it becomes growth, and so fear is also rising. Again, people think that when I have this breakthrough, fear should go down, right? No, because if you're in your magic zone, if you're out of your comfort, it's increasing always. And so if you're not scared, that should be an indication, that you might have slipped back into some form of safety and comfort. And so how do you make fear your friend? How do you manage it differently? And I'm kind of foreshadowing to some things here that we're going to talk about tonight, but all of these things go into the new psychology required, for the goals that you're going to set. If you're truly going to take new actions, well, we have to learn how to deal with that differently. And we have a ton of tools to do this. And so within the 9-step that I'm going to briefly cover tonight, and it's available to members and clients, it's on the website. I'll show you where to get it. But it goes into how do we create some of this psychology. And there's a process, 3 different mindsets or psychologies required that go into setting, planning, and as I talked about in the emails, goal keeping. How do we have this unstoppable goal keeping mindset? The 9-step process will allow you to do that. But before we go, again, what does it mean to write software? Or another way to say that is write a new program, or tell a different story. When you talk about your past, when you talk about the data points, and you talk about this is why I am the way that I am, what's the story that you run or that you tell? It's analogous to saying, what's the operating system? What's the software? And really simply, it's just a series of thoughts, feelings, and actions to create a new you. Software is just a series of instructions on what to do with the data points, just like an Excel spreadsheet. You input data. Now, if you change the equations within that Excel spreadsheet, it's going to output something different. So just like a computer software, the mind behaves very similarly. And what that means is, so again, we have a data point. We're always processing. What does this mean? And it could be a data point from your past. It could be a current one, an experience you're going through. What does this mean? And you'll see on the right here, we have a great tool for this, one of the most powerful in the system, called I Choose Meaning. So you take a data point and you write half full. What's half full about this, and what's half empty about this? That's our quantum glass tool. It's always both. Now, for a lot of people, if it was something really challenging or maybe even a traumatic data point, the tendency is to think, this was half empty. This was bad. This broke me. I limp because of this event, this experience. But, on the other side, there's lessons, there's growth. And when you consciously look at that and consciously design and choose the meaning that you want, Well, you're going to tell a different story about that data point. And based on the meanings that we assign, we ascribe a feeling. So, if this was bad, and it generates a feeling of, it could be, I'm worse off, I'm unworthy, I'm, undeserving. It's a bad feeling versus it was something really good. It's going to generate good feelings. And we teach, and we have a whole toolbox of things to basically, take control, or that allows you to associate or dissociate to feelings as you please. So how do we quiet and, dampen down the feelings, the disempowering feelings that we have? How do we associate to? How do we amplify the empowering feelings? Yeah, this is all, we all have this ability. It's just, we haven't really been taught how to, and we don't, know that it's really possible. We're taught that feelings just are. Well, you can, trust me, you can generate you can generate excitement at the drop of a hat. You can generate sadness if you want. You can control your emotions. And then based on that emotion, that fuels, the actions that you take, or for most, the actions you don't take. So again, when we're talking about goals for 2022 and what you're setting, this is how the brain-mind cycle works. This is why changing software, writing a new operating system is so important, because it all leads to what we decide to do, the actions that we take and don't take. What has stopped you in the past? How do I overcome that? How do I continue to take more action? Yeah, this is what these tools are designed to do. Now, real quickly, I want to look at, because again, you're going to get some hints as to maybe your operating system or your programming. Top 10 reasons why most people fail with, and this was typically for New Year's resolutions, but it's for any goals. Your psychology is built on avoiding failure. And so this is our don't spill the milk example. When you tell a child, they're going to pour their first glass of milk, you say, don't spill. What the brain has to do to cognitively process that is imagine all the ways that you can spill milk and then try to avoid doing that. So you're actually enhancing the probability that it's going to happen in the mind-body connection. The body will find, or will follow, what the mind is envisioning. And so if you're in an away pattern, meaning you're moving away from what you don't want, you're primarily driven on avoiding failures or undesirable outcomes, that is not a most ideal psychological program for success. You don't believe that you can do them in the first place. They're made at the last minute, not much thought, failures expected. And, we'll figure out how to do it in the future, just not now. So, now we're getting into beliefs, and beliefs are part of the operating system. It's part of the software. So how do you believe something that you don't? Well, the reasons why you don't are going to lie within your, old software. There's going to be some connections there in your, model of the world document. You're going to discover what created that disempowering belief in the first place. So again, we have tools to work around and create new belief systems. But for most, they're not much thought put into the goals when they set them in the first place. There's certainly not a plan put to it. There's not much detail, not a lot of follow through, no tracking. You don't gather the references or the resources that you need. So, this goes to most believe success is based on resources. That's not the case. It's all about resourcefulness. How can you use what you have available to you already? Resourcefulness is just a software. How resourceful can you get? Who are the people that you do know? What resources do you currently have available that will lead you to more? That all goes down to the belief system, what you believe is possible or not. Why you may intellectually think you should do them, you're not emotionally attached to the goal or what you say that you want. So as we like to joke, you're, shoulding all over yourself. How often do we use this word? Yeah, it's very common. This is a big failure with honor. I know I should. I think I can, maybe, probably. I'll try. It's not a full-on commitment. It's not a must. It's more of a, chore. And this is something that I absolutely want, and nothing's going to stop me. And there's no emotion to it. There's a complete lack of clarity. Again, going to the one above there, there's no details, no plan. They're not specific enough or concise. I want to get healthier. I want to work on my marriage. I want to do better in my business. Whatever those phrases that you use, there's no specificity. There's not an exact target that you're aiming for. And so if you have a little bit, if you just improve 1%, hey, that's a good year. You must know why you want this. If the why is big enough, then the hows will become automatic. I'm going to cover this more in depth here in a minute. This is a big one. Why? Why are you doing this? Again, it's a should, not a must. And then this one can be a bit complex. If you want more, I'm not going to go in depth on this one tonight, but this is a biggie. There's a rogue program running, so in your subconscious, that says you don't really want the thing that you say that you want. So, does the overweight person want to be thin is an example we use, or, do you really want success in your business? Do you really want the love that you want? There's something running in the background, and typically it'll come in the form of, it's more painful to have this thing that I'm saying that I want. And so, to stay where I am or not have this, it's less painful and I'll manage, and that's a good outcome. So more versus less pain. This is typical. This is the decision-making process of people in an away pattern, like that I mentioned earlier. Are you focused on avoiding outcomes that you don't want, or are you moving towards the things that you do want? So if you want more info on this, let me know. I'll send you a link to it. We can go more in depth, but this is a little bit more complex, and it's kind of hard to grasp because it's not readily apparent. It's not in your conscious mind as to the thing that's running, that's preventing this. So based on the first 9, you build the list over and over again. Every year, it gets longer and longer. You feel worse and worse. You overestimate what you can do in 1 year, and you underestimate what you can do in 5. So it's a self-perpetuating cycle. Now, with all these things, and you can actually find this, there's a blog on our website. You could search for top 10 reasons. It'll come up. You could just do nothing. You could sign off right now and just say, I'm going to do the opposite of all these 10 things. And you're going to have a great uplift for this next year in your goal setting. Now back to setting, planning, and keeping. So these are the 3 distinct psychologies that are required. Each one has increasing power as you do them. You'll see I've listed goal planning here first because most do this first. They'll go right into the planning process. You know, it's thinking about and contemplating and shuffling around and, you know, imagining, okay, how much time do I have to do this? And what are the possibilities? Okay, what do I have to sacrifice? And, you know, it's not a fixed set goal. It's constantly shifting. You're constantly trying to plan things in, plan your day, plan your weeks, and you lose track of the specific thing that you might have in your mind that you're working towards. And so, you know, you'll go into the how am I going to do this first. Back to the one up here. You know, most go to the hows. They don't start off with why. They don't even start off with actually setting and committing to the goal. Now, goal setting, and you'll see I've put percentages here. If you're doing planning, that you're already in the top 35% when we look at success, and this is everything: money, health, love, all that. 65% of people, they're not even writing stuff down. They're thinking about it. They won't even write grocery lists. Now, once you break that 35th percentile, that's when we start to see things being written on napkins and, you know, grocery lists, and, you know, they'll write some things down, but to really break into the top 20, that's when you actually see a true goal setting happen. They're speaking it. They're telling their friends, their spouses, you know, they're writing it down. It's in front of them daily. You know, they'll do formal planning, not just kind of the hasty, you know, messy kind of version of planning. Just like you, again, will do at work. They'll do a formal planning. They'll bust out their calendar. They'll schedule specific time. They'll put it in a SMART format. So if you don't know this acronym, this is a big one you want to know. It's actually covered here, step 7, in the 9-step process that we're going to cover here in a second. Specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, and time-based. So you have all of those elements. This is, you know, goal setting 101. It's very clear. You know, there's a time component. You're measuring it, you're tracking it. It's specific. Now, goal keeping, this is the top 10%. And this is what the 9-step process is going to create for you. So going deeper into how you actually, you know, want to do goal setting and goal planning. Again, this should come first. It doesn't for most, because if they don't know the how, they won't even do proper goal setting. They can't figure it out, you know, except for at work, because they have to. The boss tells them, we've got a project, we've got a deadline, we need this. Then you'll do this. But do you really do it in your personal life? Do you do it for, you know, your business that you own? And when no one else is looking, no one else is telling you what needs to be done. So when you sit down to really set the goals, it's important to look at how important it is. You know, why are you doing this? Why? Is it for you? Is it for a child, your family? Do you know, is it out of necessity? Or is it just, yeah, it would be nice to have? Again, you know, when you look at emotional intensity, we bust out our emotional intensity meter. If it's just a nice to have, where is it? Is it a 10 out of 10 on emotions, or it's like, yeah, if it does, if it happens, awesome. If not, no harm, no foul. Not much connection to it. Why? Why? And then if you want to get really specific, what happens if you don't do it? And you can future pace, meaning time travel, 6 months, a year, 5 years. What happens? Are you, better off? Are you worse off? Are you the same? What is it? And having a program, and you'll see here I wrote, you must have a completed psychological program for each of these points. You really want to write this down, figure out these equations, because I'll tell you, we're really just motivated by two things. It's pain and pleasure. We're avoiding pain or we're pursuing pleasure. Now, ideally, you'd like to have both of these designed in the equation. So what if you don't do it? Is there some pain that will happen? Does that motivate you to, be it a health goal? Does that motivate you when it's really challenging to, get up, get to the gym? What if you do it and it fails? Have you really lost anything? What do you have to lose? These are important things to know. Now, for most, there's not going to be, we'll time travel to a place where, and we'll imagine the worst case scenarios. I give the classic example in the don't spill the milk tool. A meteor can rip through the ceiling right now and rip the pitcher out of my hands. Now I have to worry about meteors. We'll imagine these out of this world, impossible scenarios that will likely never happen. So, our imaginations are great at this. Is that real? Is what you're imagining realistic? Or is it not that bad? Or you can design this and say, well, if it fails, hey, even if it fails, the amount of lessons and growth, let's call it, a business model, the amount of intellectual capital that I've gained, the skills, what works and what doesn't work. So I know what's a better goal for me the next time around. Have you really lost anything, or do you gain? What if you do it and it succeeds? So on the pleasure side of things, what happens? What are you getting? What are you gaining? What are the implications? Who does it affect? Does it affect just you? Is this for your family? Again, why? So very important. Once you know this, once you're clear on this, the hows will reveal themselves. The hows are far less important than the why driving factor behind it. So after that, then you sit down and you do your planning program. Now, most will do this intellectually. They won't do it with a lot of emotion. So again, you're missing out if you do this just IQ, logic, ration, you're missing out on a big driving force in this process. Most don't understand the decide, commit, and integrate tool. 3 steps of increasing power for attaining a goal or creating something. So you're going to decide, which literally means you're going to cut off all other options. You're going to commit to it. And again, the 9-step process will help with this. Now you're taking the action. Now you have no other choice. You've verbalized it. You've created accountability for yourself. And then integrate. Now you're living, you're breathing, you're being this person each three. So most people just get to the decide. They won't do the commitment, which requires the emotion, which requires, you actually writing it down on a piece of paper, putting it on your calendar, verbalizing, as I said, and then you do it. We don't plan for contingencies. Something the military does very, very well. They've got a B and a C and a D. Well, what happens if this doesn't work out the way I want? Okay, well, I can take this route. This goes into the details, a detailed follow-up plan. There's no future pacing, meaning, as I mentioned earlier, you time travel into the future. You're imagining the life when you have this thing, you've attained this goal. We don't do it with emotion, but if it is done, it's done on the flip side. So we'll imagine the negative consequences. We'll put stress and fear and anxiety in our bodies. We won't do the same with the excitement, with the joy and the passion. There's no structure for success. Again, it's more about don't fail. And the plan is more about how to prevent the bad things from happening, not celebrating, not feeling and seeing yourself as this person having this goal and how awesome that would feel. You have this ability. If you already do this with stress and anxiety, why can't you do it on the flip side? Why can't we do it with joy and excitement? Which leads us to goal keeping. Now, again, the 9-step process, this is more as you're in action, and you'll see this is all about action psychology. As you're in motion, how you're managing things that come up along the way, how you stay, committed and you're integrating this, because there's going to be obstacles. There's going to be, things that happen. And as I already said, counterintuitively, fear and failure are rising. So how you manage that, how you deal with that, for most, this turns to anxiety. It becomes crippling. I don't like this new place. It's scary. This is too far out of my comfort zone, man. I need to pump the brakes. I need to slow down here. Failure is also rising. Hey, I don't like that. And so we slip back into a failure avoidance psychology. And this column, by the way, is typical of old you. And so again, can you write the equation as failure is a half full thing? It's growth, it's lessons, it's mandatory. It has to happen. The greater success that I want, the more greater failures required to get there, or else I'm not learning and growing. It's just part of the equation. Fear, how do we manage that? We have a ton of tools, but fear equals adrenaline of life. I've never been more alive in this moment, because adrenaline heightens your senses. It makes you more aware. It actually makes you superhuman. The stories of grandmas lifting cars off of children. Do you run that equation? Is your meaning around fear and adrenaline, is it a empowering one? Or is it, I don't like this, this is bad, something bad's about to happen, now I've got to engage my fight or flight? And again, most old you is going to choose flight. Move away from this. Action becomes, now these things lead to don't take action, or at least not now. Procrastinate. Decrease the speed versus maintain it, increase the speed. We have a saying here, and this also comes out of the military toolbox, but They don't look for unbreakable soldiers. Everyone breaks at some point. Everyone's going to have a tough day. They're going to get knocked down. The world, the universe is going to challenge them. Do you get up? That's all. That's all elite military looks for. Who gets up? Or do you argue, I can't, this is too hard, I won't? Hey, if I get up, there's more failures awaiting me. There's more pain awaiting for me. So just stay here. And you don't stop getting up until you collect your goal. So again, you need a completed psychological program for each of these points and have a future pace, a future vision for what other magic might happen along this journey. You know, for some of the new folks here, I know that these may seem a bit foreign, but a lot of these go into in-depth in both the course on the website, the Live Life by Design course, you know, within coaching, if you're in a coaching program, there's tools for each of these. But you have to understand, you know, some of the things that are happening from a psychological perspective, from an operating perspective, as to what has held you back, you know, in the past. You know, what stops most people from maintaining their momentum? Why so many people give up, you know, 2-3 weeks in their New Year's resolutions. When you address these, when you become aware of what's happening, how you're thinking, how you're feeling, and you can manage this differently, that's where you're going to create the new outcomes. That's what's going to drive and continue different actions. So, you know, ask for help, ask me, write me, call me. You know, get into the website, get on the course, do the worksheets, journal, get clear on what is happening at the thought and emotion level, you know, so that you have greater consciousness as to how you're operating, and then we can address it. So now with the 9 steps, again, I'm going to just cover these briefly. This is available to you. I think most people here already either have a membership or are in a coaching program. This is, if you go on the website, it's under courses, under New Year Revolution. You can go through these 9 steps. I think it's about an hour, maybe a couple hours long course. I'll walk you through in depth if you want to follow through this on your own. But I want to just at least show you what's available here and what the objective is. So step 1 is getting clear. Leaders see things as they are, not better or worse than they are. So having a clear lens. You know, how was the last year? When you look at 2021, what was it? What did you love? What did you hate? What were your challenges? What growth, what gifts, lessons did you find? And you know, spend some good time with this. Spend at least an hour. And this is we do this every year. Some of the things that I realized that I didn't acknowledge or haven't acknowledged, you know, as to what happened, the tendency is to look at, you know, the things that we hated, the thing that sucked, the things that still challenge us, and we're not truly acknowledging the great things and what you did awesome. Really own that, celebrate that. If you do this right, you do this consciously, you'll already engage a different emotional connection to the previous year and just get in a great mindset, a clear mindset for the upcoming steps. Step 2 is you get certain. Again, really tapping into your emotional intensity, looking at the great things that you did, not just in 2021, but, you know, since birth. What was a dream? What was impossible? What did you do? How did you do it? You know, what were the emotions? What steps did you take? So getting clear again on your power, your ability to do what you once thought was impossible things. You know, we all have something, and whether it was going to college, a relationship, having a kid, you know, our tendency is to remember our failures and beat ourselves up over that. You know, and the story we tell ourselves as a result is why we're a failure, you know, and then we apply those strategies to our success, our present success, and counterintuitively, we'll draw on that in the most challenging times, you know. And so if we intensely remember failures, and those are the meaning we create and the story we tell around it, is those things were terrible, I never want to have to experience that again, which leads to, or it lends to, it compounds the fact that we want to avoid the failure. You know, again, that's where we'll apply that today and we'll call that success, as long as we don't fail. Well, that's not very inspiring. You know, we have to remember, and when you look at that, and if you actually do look at something that was a failure, what did you get out of it? What was the strength that you got that you can apply today and moving forward? There's immense power waiting for you here. Now, step 3, we get excited. So we want to consciously activate the half full side of the glass, our half full emotional intensity. And this is a really fun exercise. You just get crazy about everything that you want. Every last thing. You know, I'd spend good time with this again, and you'd spend a half an hour. List everything that you want. And it doesn't matter. Don't just think of this as just 2022, but, you know, for life. What is it? Do you want 5 houses? Do you want 10 houses? Do you want, you know, I don't know, a position at your job? Do you want, what kind of family do you want? What's the future vision of success? When you think of the greatest version of you possible that you can imagine, what are the details? What are the things? What do you want? Even if you think it's impossible. And so what's important to remember is, I mentioned it earlier, most people overestimate what they can do in 1 year, and they underestimate what they can do in 5. So you're going to list everything, and then you'll actually go through it, and then you'll look at, without any regard, you know, as you're writing these things down, without any regard to time, once you're done, once you think you've got everything out, you'll list how many years you think it'll take to accomplish it. Step 4, you get focused. You're going to circle the top 5 that you want to do in 2022. What would juice you up? What would motivate? What would make you excited to get out of bed every single day, knowing that that's your target for the year? Versus how do most of us get out of bed? We certainly don't jump up and scream with excitement and do jumping jacks. Here we go again. It's another day. Okay, get ready. I'm going to get out of bed the same way. I'm going to shower the same way, scrub the same armpit, you know, put my same leg in the same pant, you know, put my same shoe on the same, my favorite coffee mug, jump in a car, go to work the same way. We're back into our habits of old you, versus, you know, what would make you excited? What would actually get you from an unconscious way of creating your day to one of intention, and passion. What are those 5 things? Step 5, we're going to get committed. So this goes to, in our goal setting psychology, why is this important? Why are you doing it? This time you're going to find somebody. Could be a spouse, could be a friend, mentor, someone that you're going to tell your why, and you want their feedback. Did it give them goosebumps? When you talk about it, do they see your excitement? First of all, if it doesn't do this for you, you haven't found it yet. So literally you need to find goosebumps, and that's different for everyone. Some people cry. Some people just have a huge grin on their face, and they're literally their hair standing on their arms. But do you truly feel it? And if someone else can feel your excitement, then you're clear, it's doing its job. But this, probably out of all the steps, I would say this is the biggest one. This is one you really, really want to spend some good time with. Getting momentum. Once you've picked your 5 things, you've written your whys down, you're going to take massive action. We want to get in the habit of taking massive radical action. So you're going to do 3 things in the next 24 hours, which is one action is going to be ginormous. It's going to be a BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goal. One of them you're going to do that night, and then the other 2 have to be done in the next 24 hours. Get into the mode, get into the habit of just taking action right now, getting speed, getting momentum. Step 7, you're going to get clear. And so this is where our SMART tool comes in. There's that acronym again. You're going to apply all of those aspects to each of the goals that you wrote down for 2022. So you're going to go into detail. You're going to put time components to it. This gets you in that top 10% of goal setting. If you don't know that tool, it's on the website. I think you could search for, might come up if you type in SMART. I know it's under goals and outcomes, but if you're having trouble, just write me. I can always direct you to where to find something on the site if you're having troubles. Step 8, you're going to get organized. Now these 2, again, I'm not going to do in depth, but this tool, this quadrant really helps you see how well you're planning and executing. So you'll see up here, we've got 0 and 0, execute on this axis, plan on this axis. So if you're not planning well, you're not executing well, you get nothing, right? On the opposite end, great plan, great execution, you get everything. Now, if you're poor plan, but better execution, you'll get something above average results. But if you're planning really well, but no execution, your action psychology, your action software is lacking, you're not going to get much. So you want to gauge, where are you at, and what do I need to work on? Is it my plan? Is it my execution? What in my software or operating system needs some upgrades? And then last but not least, we've got get real. And this is, we're applying all 9 verbs. And this is all sensory modalities applied to each of the goals. And you're doing the decide, commit, integrate tool. Again, for on your own time, go through this, go through these 9 steps. This is, if you do this right, I said in the email, this virtually guarantees your success. When you follow these steps, this is what's creating this goal keeping mindset. These are going to be wired in. These goals, 2022 outcomes are going to be wired into your nervous system. And it's what's going to generate this goal keeping psychology for you, and how well you're integrating this into your daily life, how you think on a daily basis, how you feel, again, who you are, who you're being to make this a reality. So you should be, I hope you will be, ready now, going through the 9 steps. And if you're not, if you get hung up, if you have any challenges, if you have questions, please write me, call me. I'm here to support you. This is why you're here. This is part of the program here. So, woo, 55 minutes in, went through that quickly. I know I covered a lot. I really just wanted to briefly go through the 9 steps, but I'll open it up for questions and comments. I'll keep this going as long as you guys want. And if you want to drop off, because I'm respectful of your time, no worries, and we'll talk soon. But what do you got for me? And feel free to, I don't know if there's I'm still getting used to the Zoom meeting. If there's a way to raise your hand or just open your mic if you want to chat. And you can also type something into the chat bar there. So what questions do we got?
Great presentation, Brian. Thanks.
Thank you, Brittany. All right. Well, I assume you've already begun your 9-step process, so I will leave you to it if there's no questions. Again, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for being here. Hope you all have an excellent rest of your evening, and we'll be picking these webinars back up. So won't be weekly, but every couple of weeks, kind of cadence to them. And in the meantime, like I said, email, call, any way you want to get a hold of me. I'm here to support you. So have an awesome night.
Thank you, Brian. Good night.
And saw your comment there, Lisa. Yep. Enjoy. And yeah, let me know if anything comes up. Take care, everyone.